Hello, hello. Welcome back to video 4 in this series of things that I have learned in the past 2 years on my spiritual journey that I want to share with you to give you some new experiences and perspectives on your own journey. So, hi, my name is Shannon. I am a shamanic practitioner. I work with womb shamanism, star shamanism, and my medicine is to help you come home to yourself, come home to your soul, come home to your womb, come home to your body, come home to who you are. In today's video, I am going to talk about trauma, the hard stuff in life, when we put it down, and when we learn, like move on and start living. So, first off, trauma. Trauma is such a buzzword in the healing spiritual spaces right now, and partially for good reason, because trauma is something that we do need to be aware of and we need to know how to work with, and we need to be able to let out of our system. But the one thing it has done that I don't think is as good is it has made us hyper focused on trauma. Apologies, a little reset. Okay, so it's made us hyper focused on our trauma, and we can spend years looking for all the trauma in our bodies and uncovering it and forget how to live. And so I want to talk through, how do you know when you're done looking for trauma? I can do a video about how to know when you need to look for trauma, when you might need to start trauma work. But I want to start with this because most of the people in my spaces have done trauma work. And so I'm speaking for you all. I'm assuming that probably the average person watching this, at least when I first put these out, has done trauma work. And it's like, okay, how do you know if you need to be done or if you actually need to go deeper? So it's such a hard question on a certain level. This is again, I'm just sharing experience and views and ideas. You don't have to agree. And also, please don't take this as like gospel by any means. I am not right about everything. You need to put trauma down when there is nothing left to find. There will be a feeling of peace, and you might not notice it at first. Like, it sounds like obvious, like, well, if I felt a feeling of peace, I'd obviously put it down. You may not feel it at first, but there will be a feeling of, oh, I'm done. I don't have to hold this anymore. I've reached, there's nothing else left to find. There's nothing else left to uncover. I'm ready to put this down. And it can take having a really good guide, whether it's a shaman like myself or a therapist or some other kind of qualified healer. It can help to have someone hold space so they can help you see, hey, that feeling you're feeling right now, that's actually safety. That's actually calm. We don't need to go deeper. Because I didn't know what that felt like. At first, I needed others to help me feel into and put words to, oh, this is a feeling of done. Like, I'm complete. I don't need to go do more work right now. That trauma is like, you can put it down. And then sometimes it's a choice. I'm going to give an example. I was working on a project around grief with a friend, and it was really beautiful. And then we took a little break. And in that break from our creating, I had a huge epiphany. And part of it was brought on by my partner. And he said to me, you have been doing a lot of healing work and you have grieved a lot. And I'm so glad you've gotten to do it. But it is affecting us. And it's affecting me because you keep going back over the same stuff. And I really need you to figure out if you can put it down and be done, or if you do need more time to grieve. Because if you do, we need to figure out what that looks like, because it's really affecting us. It's really affecting our relationship to have you in such deep grief so much. And that was a huge wake-up call. It was like, holy shit. Okay. And so I spent about a week where most of what I did was dive into, did I need to keep holding on and go deeper, or was I actually ready to put it down? And in that week, I tapped into my radical responsibility, like I talked about in my last video. And I realized that I was keeping myself in a victim mode by staying in the grief, that it was easier on a certain level, not easier emotionally, but easier energetically in a certain way to stay in the grief and keep rolling it all around and around because it was familiar, because it meant I was a victim still. And victimhood can be really comfortable. That's why people stay in it so long. I've stayed in it a long time too. And I spent a lot of time that week finding my radical responsibility for my grief and for my journey and for everything I was doing. And I discovered that the grief, I was able to put it down. I like put it in the ground, covered it with soil and planted it, buried it. Goodbye. It was a feeling of I'm done. I don't have to do more. There's no more to find. There's nothing left to find. I'm good. And then I went back to try and continue creating for this project. And I realized that part of putting the grief to bed had put away my ability to finish that project because I was creating from pain. And I released a channeled message YouTube video in January about stop creating from pain. That was the channeled message from the Akashic Records. And that message came not too long after I did all this work. I mean, it came like 3 weeks after I put the grief down. And I tried to come back into the project and I couldn't. I tried and tried and tried. And I realized every time I tried to come back in, I was like having to go back to where I buried the grief and try and unearth it. And I had to decide, am I willing to unearth the grief and unearth something I just put to rest? Or is the lesson actually not to do this anymore? Not because grief isn't a beautiful thing to work with. I work with grief all the time in my work anyway. That's shamanic work. You work with grief. We're working with soul loss. We're working with shadow. Like grief is part of it. So is joy and pleasure and beauty and ecstasy. And I had to back out of the project and say, I'm really sorry, I can't finish this. And I actually very surprising to me, like lost the friendship over it. And that was really painful. But it also wasn't painful because I knew I was doing what was right for me. Like the messaging from my body and my soul was so clear, you can't go unearth this. If you want to put this down, you have to go live. And the only way you can create this project you've started is by going back to dying emotionally, internally, mentally. You can't. And that's never going to help other people if you put out into the world something you created when you were in that space. Because then you're just sharing with other people huge pain. Like they feel that energetically through what you create. And I realized, wow, this was never meant to be seen by the world. There's too much pain. And everything that I'd say collectively we were creating, it wasn't just my pain. It was never supposed to be in the world. And that was a huge lesson for me. A huge reminder of when you have to put stuff down. Because it had to be put down. I had to put it down. I had to put down the pain that was leading me to create that project in order to move on in my life, which meant I had to put that project down because it was being created from pain. And that pain was not what I wanted to put out into the world. It's not how I help people. And it was painful to make that decision and to make that decision from such a grounded, healthy place inside myself, a place where I'd finally put down something huge, huge, and broken free of it. And then to have this person drop my friendship, incredibly painful and also so damn good because it meant that I was choosing me. And that if me choosing putting down something hard meant that I was no longer worthy of being in a relationship with someone, then I'm going to choose me putting down my pain all the time. Because putting down my pain doesn't hurt other people. Holding on to my pain hurts me and everyone else. Just like you holding on to your pain hurts you and other people around you, because when we're in pain, we project it onto others. So that's why we have to learn when we put down the trauma, the pain, the hard stuff. Because if we don't know when to put it down, then we will keep carrying it and projecting it onto others. And we will get mad at other people when they put down their pain, and we haven't figured out how to do it for ourselves yet. And instead of asking for help, we get mad at them for doing something we haven't done. I'm sure every single one of us can think of a time we've done that. I know I have. I'm not perfect. We learn through these things, but we have to actually learn through it. Otherwise, we just repeat the same pattern over and over. And that's why I'm making this video. We have to learn how to put the hard stuff down. And so if you're at a place where you're like, do I need more help? Do I need more support from somebody? Or do I need to put this down and figure out how to put it down? I want you to really feel into yourself. Is there more here I need to uncover? Or am I just hurting myself by not putting this down? What am I gaining by keeping hold of this? What am I gaining? Where is it feeling calming to me to be a victim? Because that's what I'm doing when I keep my pain and I hold it like a shield. I'm keeping myself as a victim. I want you to ask yourself that. Get really honest with yourself. Take a few days. And then you get to really ask yourself, can I just put this down? Like, do I actually have the ability right now to go, I don't need this anymore, and I lay it down? Or maybe you don't have that ability right now. That's fine. Then you come ask for help, right? Maybe you come back to me and you ask for help. Maybe you go to someone you trust and you ask for help putting it down. But you find the way you put it down. We can't go through life holding on to our trauma, our pain, our hard stuff. We have to figure out when to put it down, because otherwise, again, we hurt ourselves and we hurt others. And then it's not a way to live. It's not a way to live. We have to learn how to live. And that was what I did for myself when I put that really big piece of pain and grief down. I chose living in joy over holding that grief, holding that pain. I chose to be done. I chose to live. And it was truly a hard choice. But once I made it, I could feel how right it was. If I had made the opposite choice, I don't know that I'd be sitting here right now making this video for you. And that was the end of December. That wasn't even that long ago. But if I had made the opposite choice and said, you know what, actually, I need more time to be in all of this, a lot of things would probably be different. Probably would have put out that course. I may have had to walk away or break my relationship, at least for a while. I wouldn't be where I am, because I would have chosen to keep holding something really heavy and making myself a victim to it. And you may have noticed that I like to bring in the word and energy of victim a lot. And it's because I found that it is an archetype that we hold so strongly in so many places. And it's like, it is the main archetype that I work with people on releasing. We live in a world that makes us feel victimized. Of course, we're going to feel victimized by other things. And it's a choice how much we let that victim mentality stay with us. But I'd say, the majority of people walk around with sometimes conscious, sometimes unconscious victim mentalities going through their minds, going through their bodies and feelings. And that's why I use it so much, because there are things I would never have thought I was victimizing myself about until I actually looked at them from the lens of, am I making myself a victim to this? And when I saw it was a yes, changed everything. I thought it was a yes, and I did the work to undo it, to change it, changed everything. And I want that for you. I want that for you so much. So How do you know when to put the hard stuff down and move on? Honestly, to an extent, part of it is you just feel exhausted with your own stories. You feel exhausted with going back over the same stuff. And then you have to decide, am I going to keep going back over or am I going to put it down? Maybe I should put it down. And then you figure out what you need to do to put it down, who you need help from, how you make your decision, how you really put it down so it doesn't come back. Because it can be easy to just say, I'm putting it down, but you didn't really mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually let go, and it comes back because you didn't really put it down. So you want to make sure you really put it down. So I'm going to keep this one short and sweet here. I think that's what I need to say. I want you to really think about this. See if there's anything in your life that you need to put down, that maybe it's time to stop moving through and it's time to actually just start living, calling in life, and seeing how the life, calling in the life and the joy fills the hole of whatever it is you've been carrying. So you actually feel full, as opposed to there's an emptiness, a hollowness, a heaviness, but hollowness at the same time when we're holding on to something that's ready to be let go of. And we have to let it go and live. So if you want support and help with this, please feel free to reach out. All of my main programs are linked below. And know that this is a human experience. We all go through these things. It doesn't make you wrong or bad that you might have something you need to learn how to let go of and put down and move on from. It's not your fault that you have heavy things that you might be carrying, but it is your responsibility. Going back to last episode, it is your responsibility to put it down and to learn how to live. And you will never regret that choice. I promise you that. All right. Sending you lots of love and blessings. Thank you for joining me for this video. I hope this has been helpful, and I am, as always, open to hear anything you want to share after receiving this.